Listen to me. There comes a moment in life when you must stop chasing what was never meant to stay. Stop begging for what was never designed to belong to you. And stop apologizing for who you are becoming. Because the truth is, destiny does not respond to noise, it responds to focus. You were never created to run after people, but to run after purpose. When you focus on your growth, your peace, your calling, what's meant for you will recognize you without introduction. So I challenge you today, stop chasing approval and start becoming the person heaven already sees you as. When you stop chasing, what's meant for you will start searching for you. That's a principle of divine alignment, not human effort. You see, many people spend their lives running after things that were never assigned to their destiny. They chase relationships, opportunities, validation, and recognition, yet all the while they are running away from themselves. The tragedy is, the more you chase, the further the right things seem to move. Why? Because what belongs to you doesn't respond to desperation. It responds to development. Pause for a moment and think, what if the delay isn't denial? What if it's divine protection? What if the reason the door hasn't opened yet is because the person who is supposed to walk through it hasn't matured enough to handle what's behind it? You can't demand what your character isn't ready to sustain. God doesn't release blessings based on desire. He releases them based on readiness. That's why sometimes the best thing you can do is stop chasing and start becoming. When you begin to grow, when you begin to focus on your own refinement, the right people, the right doors, the right seasons begin to align with your presence. It's not magic, it's principle. You attract what you are, not what you pretend to be. So, if you keep attracting chaos, maybe it's time to check what you're carrying inside. Because energy recognizes energy, spirit recognizes spirit, and value recognizes value. Stop chasing those who don't see your worth. Stop begging to be noticed by those who can't discern your gift. Stop running after what's running from you. The truth is, what's running from you isn't yours, and what's yours won't have to be forced. When you stand still in purpose, when you build in silence, when you mature in discipline, you create an atmosphere where destiny begins to locate you. Every blessing has your spiritual fingerprint on it. You don't have to chase what was custom, designed for your purpose. You just have to become the version of yourself that can hold it. The right relationships, the right assignments, the right opportunities, they are not hiding from you. They are waiting for you to rise to their frequency. So, while you're waiting, work. While you're becoming, believe. While you're building, trust the timing. Because every time you stop chasing, you give what's meant for you permission to move. And it will find you when you're ready, not when you're restless. And hear me, the next level doesn't come when you chase harder. It comes when you focus deeper. Because something powerful happens when you stop running after what you want and start walking in who you are. And when you truly understand that, you'll discover the secret behind the power of becoming, not begging. The power of becoming, not begging. That's the difference between living with purpose and living in desperation. You see, begging is the language of the unprepared. Becoming is the language of the intentional. When you beg, you're asking for something you haven't yet qualified for. But when you become, you attract it without asking. There's a difference between pursuing something because you need it and attracting it because you've become it. Listen carefully. Life doesn't give you what you ask for, it gives you what you are. That's why some people pray, fast, and still see no change. Because transformation doesn't happen by wish, it happens by work. You cannot pray for abundance and still think in scarcity. You cannot ask for peace while holding on to chaos. You cannot demand respect while refusing to develop your value. You must become what you desire before it arrives. When a seed is planted in the ground, it doesn't beg the soil to grow. It simply becomes. It surrenders to the process. It breaks open. It endures pressure. And in time, what's inside begins to emerge. That's what becoming is. Allowing the process to shape you for what you've been praying for. And that's why so many people miss their moment. They keep chasing blessings they haven't been processed for. Let me ask you something. If God gave you everything you're asking for right now, could you sustain it? Could you carry it without compromise? Could you manage it without losing yourself? Because purpose doesn't respond to begging, it responds to preparation. The power of becoming is that it shifts your posture from, Lord, give me, to, Lord, make me ready. And when you become ready, what you are chasing starts coming in your direction. That's when you understand true power isn't in asking, it's in alignment. You don't have to force your way into rooms. When your gift has been refined, your presence will speak for itself. You don't have to beg for recognition. When you've developed your value, the world will seek your voice because of what you carry. That's what happens when you stop begging and start becoming. You move from survival to significance. Stop trying to convince people to see your worth. Stop lowering your standards to be accepted. Stop waiting for permission to become great. You were never meant to beg for attention. You were designed to embody excellence. When you grow in character, discipline, and wisdom, doors begin to open, not because you knocked harder, but because you became the person who belongs on the other side. And that's the beauty of becoming. It doesn't just change what you have, it changes who you are. Because the world doesn't respond to voices that plead, it responds to lives that prove. And when you grasp that truth, you'll understand why you don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. That's not just a quote, that's a law. Life doesn't respond to words, it responds to vibration, to identity, to alignment. You can declare success all you want, but if your mindset still carries poverty, success will pass you by. You can pray for love every night, but if you're filled with fear, insecurity, and bitterness, love will find no room to stay, because everything in your life is a reflection of your inner condition. Hear me, the outside world is only a mirror of the inside world. If you don't like what you're seeing, stop fighting the mirror and start fixing the reflection. Many people spend years trying to change circumstances, but they never change themselves. They think if they chase harder, pray louder, or post more, things will shift. But life doesn't change when your environment does. It changes when your mindset does. What you attract is not determined by your wishes, but by your identity. That's why success is not an achievement, it's a reflection. It's the result of who you've become. If your thoughts are filled with doubt, you'll attract more reasons to doubt. If your heart is filled with gratitude, you'll attract more reasons to give thanks. You are a magnet. Every thought, every attitude, every word is pulling something toward you. So the question is, what are you attracting right now? Are your habits aligned with your prayers? Are your actions consistent with your declarations? You can't speak faith on Sunday and live in fear on Monday. You can't say you're expecting greatness, but keep entertaining mediocrity. Life listens to your habits more than your words. When you begin to change your inner world, everything around you must eventually respond. The moment you start thinking higher, talking wiser, and living with discipline, doors that were once closed begin to open. Why? Because you're no longer sending the same signal. You're operating on a different frequency, a frequency that matches your destiny. You attract peace when you become peaceful. You attract vision when you start living with clarity. You attract opportunity when you prepare for it. Nothing just happens. You're always attracting something, consciously or unconsciously. That's why transformation is the greatest form of manifestation. You can't receive more until you become more. So instead of asking, when will things change? Start asking, when will I? Because the truth is, your life can't rise above your identity. You don't get what you wish for, you get what you're ready for. And readiness isn't proven by words, it's proven by becoming. And when you understand that principle, when you finally stop trying to attract and start choosing to become, you'll discover why focus is the silent force that builds greatness. Focus is the silent force that builds greatness. You can't see it, you can't touch it, but its power shapes everything you become. Focus is what separates the distracted from the disciplined, the busy from the effective, the average from the exceptional. You can have potential, you can have vision, you can even have passion, but without focus, all of it leaks away like water through open fingers. Because where there is no focus, there can be no fruit. The tragedy of our generation is not lack of opportunity, it's lack of focus. Everyone is doing something, but few are mastering anything. We chase 100 things, but build nothing lasting. We keep moving, but we're not progressing. We're just circling. Focus is what gives direction to your movement. It's not about how fast you go. It's about knowing where you're going and refusing to be pulled away from it. Listen carefully. Distraction is the enemy of destiny. Every time you lose focus, you delay your future. Every time you allow gossip, fear, comparison, or people's opinions to dictate your direction, you lose power. The enemy doesn't have to destroy you. All he has to do is distract you. Because if he can't make you bad, he'll make you busy. Focus means saying no to everything that doesn't serve your purpose. It means being misunderstood by people who think you've changed, when in truth, you've just grown. It means working in silence while others are posting noise. It means planting when others are partying and believing when others are doubting. Because those who master focus don't chase trends, they build legacies. Ask yourself this: what has been stealing your focus? What's been taking your energy but giving you nothing back? Sometimes it's not sin that keeps you stuck, it's distraction. The wrong conversation, the wrong circle, the wrong priorities. They drain your vision until your purpose becomes blurred. But the moment you take your focus back, your power returns. Focus magnifies what you value. When you direct your attention toward growth, you grow. When you fix your eyes on purpose, purpose expands. That's why the enemy attacks your focus more than your faith, because your faith can't produce what your focus won't sustain. You can't build a future while staring at the past. You can't walk on water while watching the waves. You were not created to scatter your potential in 1,000 directions. You were created to aim it intentionally, consistently, faithfully at what heaven assigned you to do. Because when you master focus, you master time. And when you master time, you master destiny. So stop allowing distractions to dilute your greatness. Protect your focus like your life depends on it, because it does. And when you finally understand that, you'll realize why you must stop running after people and start running toward purpose. Stop running after people, start running toward purpose. That's the turning point between living for approval and living with authority. You see, too many people are exhausted not because they're working too hard, but because they're working for the wrong audience. They are chasing people who were never assigned to their destiny, fighting for spaces that were never meant to hold them, and seeking validation from voices that were never qualified to define them. Listen carefully. When you run after people, you make them your source. You start believing that their opinion determines your value, that their acceptance determines your worth, that their attention validates your existence. But people are temporary, inconsistent, emotional, and limited. Purpose, on the other hand, is eternal. It doesn't change with trends, moods, or seasons. When you run after people, you get tired. But when you run after purpose, you get transformed. Stop trying to prove yourself to those who were never meant to understand you. Stop apologizing for your growth just to keep people comfortable with your old version. Stop lowering your standards so others won't feel small around your greatness. You were not created to chase people. You were created to chase vision. The moment you fix your eyes on purpose, the right people will begin to align with your path. Because purpose attracts provision, purpose attracts partnership, and purpose attracts power. Think about it. Every time you run after people, you lose direction. But every time you run after purpose, people start finding you. The right ones are drawn to your authenticity, your consistency, your light. You don't have to beg for them to stay. They'll recognize what you carry and choose to walk beside you. That's the difference between relationship by desire and relationship by destiny. And here's the truth. The ones who leave you when you start walking in purpose were never assigned to your future. Don't chase them. Let them go. Because sometimes God removes who you thought you needed to reveal what you truly carry. Some doors only open when the wrong people exit. Some blessings only come when you stop running after distraction and start running toward design. You will never fulfill destiny by seeking validation. You will only fulfill it by seeking alignment. When you chase purpose, you don't need permission. You operate with conviction. And when you stand in that place, you begin to realize that your assignment is too heavy to be carried by opinions. You were called to walk in destiny, not dependency. So, stop running after people who can't run at your pace. Stop giving energy to places you've already outgrown. Set your eyes on your mission, your calling, your assignment. Because when you pursue purpose, everything meant for you will start chasing you. And when that happens, you'll come to understand that the secret of influence is self-mastery. The secret of influence is self-mastery. Influence doesn't begin with power, position, or popularity. It begins with discipline. It begins with the ability to govern yourself before trying to lead anyone else. Because you can't manage what's around you until you learn to master what's within you. True influence doesn't come from trying to control others. It comes from controlling your own impulses, emotions, and habits. Listen carefully. The greatest battle you will ever fight is not against the world, not against your enemies, not even against your circumstances. It's against yourself. Until you win that battle, every other victory will only be temporary. You can't conquer your environment while you're still a prisoner of your emotions. You can't lead people when you haven't yet learned to lead your mind. Self-mastery is the foundation of stability, and stability is what gives birth to influence. People follow consistency, not charisma. They trust integrity, not image. Influence is not built by how loud you speak, but by how well you live. When your life becomes disciplined, your words gain authority. When your actions match your principles, people begin to listen. Not because you demand respect, but because you've earned it. That's the hidden power of self-mastery. But hear this, self-mastery is not about perfection. It's about progress. It's about catching yourself before compromise becomes character. It's about choosing growth over comfort, purpose over pleasure, destiny over distraction. Every time you say no to what weakens you, you say yes to what strengthens you. Every time you silence your emotions to follow your principles, you build another layer of influence. Ask yourself, what have you allowed to master you? Is it fear, anger, laziness, pride? The things you refuse to confront will eventually control you. You can't have authority over the external until you've confronted the internal. And that's why some people rise quickly but fall quietly. because their public success grew faster than their private discipline. But when you master yourself, your success becomes sustainable. Influence doesn't shout, it shines. It's the quiet strength of a person who's stable under pressure, calm in crisis, and consistent in chaos. People are drawn to that kind of power, the kind that isn't controlled by applause or approval. When you master yourself, you become unmoved by flattery and unshaken by criticism. You lead not from emotion, but from conviction. And here's the truth. The world doesn't need more talented people. It needs more disciplined ones. Because talent inspires for a moment, but character influences for a lifetime. Self-mastery makes you reliable, trustworthy, and effective in every season. It positions you not just to succeed, but to sustain success. And when you grasp this principle, when you choose mastery over movement and growth over noise, you'll begin to see why when you discover yourself, you discover peace. When you discover yourself, you discover peace. Because true peace doesn't come from what you have, where you live, or who you're with. It comes from knowing who you are. The world teaches you to search for peace in possessions, in people, in positions. But the more you chase those things, the more restless you become. Why? Because peace isn't external, it's internal. It's not found in movement, it's found in meaning. Until you know who you are, you will always be at war with yourself. You see, the most dangerous form of confusion is not when you don't know where you're going, it's when you don't know who you are. Because when identity is lost, everything else becomes misplaced. You start comparing yourself to others, measuring your worth by their approval, and defining your purpose by their applause. And the result is exhaustion. You're working hard, but you're not fulfilled. You're achieving, but you're still empty. That's what happens when identity becomes performance instead of revelation. Hear me, peace begins when you stop pretending, when you stop competing, when you stop trying to fit into spaces that were never designed for you. You were never meant to be a copy. You were created to be an original. And the moment you embrace that truth, a calmness begins to rise inside you. You no longer need to prove. You no longer need to chase. You no longer need to please. You simply become. Knowing yourself brings stability. It silences the noise of comparison and releases you from the pressure of performance. When you know who you are, rejection doesn't break you. It redirects you. Criticism doesn't crush you. It clarifies you. Because peace doesn't mean the absence of conflict. It means the presence of clarity. You can stand in the middle of chaos and still be unmoved when your identity is rooted in purpose. Ask yourself, do you know who you are without your title, without your followers, without the approval of people? If all of it disappeared today, would you still know your worth? Because your value was never determined by visibility. It was established by design. You existed in purpose before anyone ever noticed you. And when you live from that truth, no one can take your peace because they didn't give it. That's why peace is power. It's the stillness that confuses the enemy. It's the confidence that says, I don't need to chase what's mine. I just need to stay aligned. When you live from identity, not insecurity, life begins to flow differently. You attract peace. You speak with wisdom. You move with grace. You no longer fight for your place. You simply walk in it. And when you truly discover that, when you embrace your identity without apology, you'll begin to understand why value doesn't chase validation. Value doesn't chase validation because when you know your worth, you no longer need permission to shine. You see, validation is the oxygen of the insecure. They can't breathe without approval. But value stands tall even when unnoticed. It doesn't beg to be seen. It simply exists confident in what it carries. The tragedy is that many people don't realize their value, so they spend their lives performing for applause rather than producing from purpose. Hear me. You don't need people to agree with your worth for it to be real. Diamonds don't beg to sparkle. Gold doesn't need to shout to prove its purity. Value is silent but undeniable. It doesn't compete, it simply is. When you understand your worth, you stop negotiating your identity to fit someone's opinion. You stop lowering your light to make others comfortable in their darkness. You stop explaining your greatness to those who were never meant to comprehend it. Validation is temporary. It fades with trends, opinions, and moods. One day they praise you, the next day they criticize you. If you live for their applause, you'll die in their silence. That's why real confidence must be built on conviction, not confirmation. You were never called to seek approval. You were called to reveal purpose. And purpose doesn't need permission. Ask yourself, how much time have you wasted waiting to be accepted? How many divine ideas have you buried because someone else didn't believe in them? How many times have you hesitated to step forward because you feared judgment? My friend, when you know your value, you move differently. You stop waiting for someone to open a door and you start building your own. You stop chasing opportunities and begin creating them, because value doesn't chase, it attracts. And that's the power of confidence that comes from within. It's quiet, it's unshaken, it's consistent. It doesn't need a crowd to confirm its calling. It knows that rejection is often redirection. It understands that being overlooked doesn't mean being unqualified. It simply means the stage isn't ready yet. When you carry real value, delay doesn't discourage you, because you know preparation always comes before presentation. So stop explaining yourself to people who don't have the capacity to understand your worth. Stop begging to be seen by those who can't recognize what God placed inside you. Stop shrinking to be accepted when you were born to stand out. The right people, the right platforms, the right opportunities, they will always find their way to value, because value draws recognition in divine timing. And when you finally stop seeking validation, peace becomes your confirmation, purpose becomes your evidence, and destiny becomes your proof. And when you understand this truth, you'll begin to see why, when you grow in silence, God speaks in public. When you grow in silence, God speaks in public, because the seasons of silence are never punishment. They are preparation. It's in the quiet place that destiny is built. It's in the unseen seasons that character is formed. Everyone wants to be celebrated, but few are willing to be hidden. Yet, it's in the hidden place that true greatness is developed. You see, God does his best work in private before he reveals it in public. Don't despise your silent seasons. Don't curse the days when no one is clapping, when no one is noticing, when no one is calling your name. Because while they're ignoring you, heaven is instructing you. While they're overlooking you, God is overseeing you. He's molding you, shaping you, strengthening you for the place he's preparing to take you. Growth doesn't happen under lights. It happens in the dark. The seed that refuses to be buried will never become a tree. Sometimes God buries you, not to kill you, but to root you. He hides you so you can grow without noise, develop without distraction, and mature without interference. Because exposure too early can destroy what preparation could have preserved. The public stage requires private strength. If you don't build it in silence, you won't sustain it in sight. And here's the truth. Everyone wants elevation, but few are ready for the isolation that comes before it. God cannot elevate what he has not established, so he hides you until you can handle what you've been praying for. And when the time is right, when the foundation is firm, when your heart is pure, he begins to reveal you, not for your glory, but for his. That's why you must learn to embrace the quiet. You must learn to trust the process when nothing seems to be happening, because something is happening, even when you don't see it. Every moment of silence is shaping your sound. Every delay is refining your destiny. Every hidden season is preparing you for divine visibility. So don't rush out of the cave just to be seen. Stay there until your character catches up with your calling. Stay there until your strength matches your spotlight. Because when God finishes working in the dark, no man can deny what he does in the light. You won't have to announce yourself. Your fruit will do that for you. And when that moment comes, when you finally step into the place you were prepared for, the same people who questioned your silence will witness your revelation. And in that moment, you'll realize it was never about being noticed. It was about being ready. So grow quietly, build faithfully, endure patiently. Because when God speaks in public, no one can silence your testimony. What he whispered in private, he will declare in power. And when heaven reveals you, the world will know your time has come.